Welcome to Sabor Astrology with T and Shay, a podcast for the soul. Today we'll be talking about the current cosmic energies. And without further ado, I love to pass la taza to T for the transits of the week. Welcome, T.
Hi,
And
thank you,
everyone.
Shay. Hi, everyone. It's so good that you're here again. I love this hour, this half hour of the day. It really makes me feel happy. So, even before we start, I've had some questions. People have asked me questions. One of the concerns someone said was like, I don't know about my rising sign. I don't know about my moon sign, and I'm like, yeah, you can know. You can have your chart done. You can ask us. It's very simple. You know, the rising sign is who we appear as in the world, what moves us forward. Our sun sign is who we are, what we've come here to do. And the rising sign is how we accomplish that, right? And then we have our moon sign, which is where we go for a place of nurturing, where we go for a place of safety, where we are for that lunar experience in our lives, which is so big when we talk about the lunar experience in our lives, in both the yin and the yang. But of course, it is a yin energy. So those are things that, reach out, get a reading, get a mini reading, right? We both do them, and we'll be happy to provide you with that information. And the other question that someone asked me was the differences between in the transits. What is a square? What does it mean when you say trine? And so I'm going to ask Shayla. Shayla, can you step forward and help us out with that?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to start first with a conjunction, because that's the most powerful aspect that lives within a chart because you have two planets sitting right next to each other. So you can imagine, for example, the sun and Mercury sitting right next to each other. Mercury can't move too far from the sun, so it gets pulled by gravity to kind of be next to the sun. So when these two planets are together, think about a new moon. Think about that phase of the moon. So that new moon phase is all about new beginnings, full power, like all the renewal that can happen. So when those two planets are together, Sun and Mercury, you bring on a new combined energy. So you combine the sun solar energy, wherever sign it's in, and then you combine the Mercury energy, whichever sign it's in, together, and it becomes almost like one. It's like alchemy in a way. They both alchemize each other, mixing into this one potent energy. Just to dive a little bit deeper, if I were to interpret those two together, to me, that can mean that there is like we relate more to our ideas. Maybe there's a new idea coming in. There could be a potential for us to expand our thought forms when these two planets are together. It also can mean that we want to be loved and cared for by others and acknowledged by others. So that's a potent energy for us. So think about when you think about conjunctions, think about the new moon phase right there, that 0 point. Where two planets are sitting next together. So it's like they're like, think about when you're sitting next to your best friend, right? You're chatting with each other. Maybe you're sharing some secrets or some knowledge. So think about that when there's a conjunction. Then we have a square. Now, a square is when a planet is 90 degrees apart from another planet. So that means about 3 signs apart from each other. And that is when it's forming what is called this fight. I always call it the Mortal Kombat fight because you're fighting, there's strife. And it's almost like you're in the boxing rink and you're looking at each other and you're like trying to dab each other and see where you're going to throw the punch. But in that strife, in that punch, we're learning lessons. In that challenge, we're learning how to maybe live through these two planets. So we'll find that planets that are in square to one another might be different elements or might be different signs. Okay, so they square each other 3 signs apart. For instance, Aries, three signs apart from that will be the square. So any planet you notice in one house, 390 degrees is square to each other. So you can eye it that way. And there's like this is a more challenging aspect, but it is a aspect that moves us forward, that can help us to deal with issues in life, to be able to be more assertive, and also to have the sense of endurance. So anytime we have that aspect in our chart. And then we go on to an opposition. Now, an opposition is when a planet is directly 180 degrees from each other. So for instance, the sun is in Virgo, and then we have Saturn opposing in exactly, say, 16 degrees of Saturn in Pisces. That it means it's in the pie, it divides it in half. So we have that, almost that I always see as a seesaw. We're like trying to look at each other, trying to see where we are in that playing field, trying to see if we can see each other in that playing field. There might be opposing ideas or opposing thought forms here, depending on the sign and the planet. So opposition, again, is 180 degrees apart from each other. And again, this could be also a challenging aspect as we are trying to look at someone else's perspective as well as our own. And we have to look at where the houses are so we can know what areas it's happening in our life. So if you were to cast your own chart, you'll or book a reading with us, we will show you that part of in your chart that's opposing. And oppositions are also good because we learn, they're challenging, but we learn to see other people's perspective rather than just our own. And then we have sextiles. So sextiles are this aspect of opportunities between planets, or between, also depending on the signs. It's a 60-degree connection between one planet and the other. We always have to look at the signs. For instance, if we have a sextile between the sun and Aries, and we have a sextile to, say, Venus and Gemini. So those are two signs over. So that is a sextile 60 degrees from each other. And that can mean opportunities, openings. Oh, I would feel like it's opening to a door for us to have an opportunity, whether we choose it or not. There is there for us. It might be also things that we don't really notice around us, or talents that we don't have an awareness of, or we do have an awareness, but we're not choosing to work with them at this moment. So it's just, that's what a sextile looks like. And it's also, if you think about sextile as a little star. So like brightness, right? Brightness and opportunity, hope as well. And then we have a trine, which is literally like a triangle. And trines are between the same element. So for instance, the sun in Pisces will be in trine to Neptune in Cancer. So that is a trine. So a trine is when it's in the same element. So it's water, water, earth, earth, fire, fire, air, air. 120 degrees apart from each other. Think about trine, the word tri. It divides the chart into three. So we will always have that 120-degree difference. So they always will be in the same element. And it gives us a look into our talents, our innate talents, what we are capable to do, what is easy and easy flowing. So it's a more positive aspect than like a opposition and a square. So in a sextile as well is very positive, because it's about opportunity. So those are the aspects that we can talk about. And there's many more. So there's what they call minor aspects. They're still significant to the chart. For instance, if we have a quincunx, is about adjustment. We can go dive a little bit deeper into quincunx when we do a Patreon, the next one.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
idea. Yeah, and you brought to mind for me the you were talking about the opposition.
Yeah.
And that brought to mind the when you're on a seesaw, like when you were talking about the seesaw, and you know how at the end somebody can always just like get off and the other person goes flying, right? But I used to do that with, not I didn't do that with my cousin. We always decided that we were just going to stay even and get off at the same time. So that was kind of like how we decided to even it out, how to make it fair for both of us, although we might have been in opposition going up and down. So like we'd always climb off at the same time. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. And the other thing was generationally, you're thinking Mortal Kombat, right? And what I was thinking about was Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
That's what we used to do at my age, is Rock'em Sock'em, robots, or, just a little bit
Yes. I
later
can
than
just
that.
imagine that.
So yeah, so it's the same, but it's different. So yeah, so thank you for that explanation, and we can go further into it, as you said, on a different podcast. Um, so I do want to talk about these aspects. And just to start it out by saying the veils are open. Know that the veils are open. You are being helped by spirit. You are helping spirit. Light a candle if you can, safely always. Put a prayer out into the universe, prayer for them, a prayer for us. When you're saying a prayer for someone else, always make sure you say a prayer for yourself too, right? Yeah, so that's what comes to me right now, is that the veils are open and we're getting information back and forth very easily. Some of us will experience losses at this time of the year, because this is an easy time for people to transition back and forth, always with the understanding that the energy may change, but the energy is always there. The energy may look different, may feel different, but the energy does not disappear. So the first transit that we're going to talk about is Sun in Scorpio, which is opposing Jupiter in Taurus, and that's Saturday to Monday from November 4th to November 6th. And I think about this as an opportunity for shining the light into the deep recesses of your soul. I had the image, because I always think in images, right, of someone going to their basement door with the flashlight, and they open it up, or maybe unfamiliar, what they think is unfamiliar. And they're lighting their way. They're saying, what is down here? And there's a fear that may exist because, you know, basements, Halloween, it's always a scary thing, right? Scary movies. It's like, oh my God, what's in the dark basement? The thing is that we've been hardwired to think of this in that way. But with Jupiter and Taurus, we can find that, we can turn the switch on for overhead lights. We can see that maybe the noise we heard down there might have been a mouse, but maybe it's because there was a candy jar that was open and the mouse was, so it's not such a terrible thing. Like, what can we do? We can remove that, candy jar. We can get rid of it, close it up. And what I'm getting at here is that we may have expectations of something that is not going to go well, but Taurus brings the stability that we need. It brings us the assuredness that we need, that about the home, about the entire home, which is ourselves, right? If we think about ourselves as the temple, as we think about ourselves as our home, that we are the safe house that we are creating. It's so funny, because we were just talking about that, about, sometimes people go to places and they expect it to be a safe space. And it's like, well, I am my safe space. I have created this to be that way. And although we always look around, of course, make sure, assess for safety, we mostly are the ones that say, okay, we can move aside. We can leave this place if we're not feeling safe. So Sun in Scorpio opposing Jupiter in Taurus may be called to look deep, to go into the dark, but know that Jupiter is there with its expansion, its light, and its love, and it's in Taurus, and that is a home that is created, right? Taurus brings you stability. Taurus brings you the ability for maintenance, that groundedness, that earth that we so need. So that's my take on that particular transit.
Yes, the grounding, so much grounding energy here. This week also opens up with the need to expand our wings or like horizons. While this transit is a bit challenging, it's not too challenging, but there is a little bit of a, butting heads here. It does ask a collective to seek expansion from the heart. So opening the heart, coming from a place of ego or just like, or confusion. So it wants us to be very direct with that. There is available opportunities for us to ground our outlooks. Again, like T mentioned, grounding the energy, because it is Taurus and it is Jupiter and Taurus. So we want to ground that energy in our outlook of the external world around us by grounding in spirituality, right? Diving deep into that basement, right? Diving deep into the things that we need to clear up or need to dig up for ourselves to be more clear, more attuned to the self. And I also have here self-preservation. So preserving ourselves, is it is Taurus, it is Scorpio. So there is an aspect of needing to go a little bit internal, needing to go in, and grounding that way, and work with spirit, right? Work with if we are inclined to work with it, to do that, so we can find some balance here as well with this transit.
Perfect. So the next transit we're going to talk about is Mercury in Scorpio, opposing Uranus in Taurus, and that's Sunday, the 4th to the 5th. And this transit can bring forth revelations that we think we're not ready to know. Uranus in Taurus tells us that it's time that we have this information. The data is deep. Uranus can be disturbing, right? Because it just blows up the spot. That's what it does. But in Taurus, know that we've created a solid foundation that can help to cushion us and help us to keep on, moving forward. How we respond is always key when these things sort of happen. We can be despondent, we can go over the top in our reactions, but that isn't really helpful to us. Is it? Is it helpful to us when we just like go over the top and how we respond? It makes me think about, like sometimes we're in these long-term relationships, I guess, Taurus, me relationships and so forth. And sometimes people do particular things. I may be the one to do it too, and someone else notices it. I don't notice it, but that they always do the same thing. And we're always thrown for a loop when they do it, right? And we're like, how could they do that? But why are we surprised? Because we know it's going to happen, but we're like never prepared for it. It's kind of like a catcher in a game. It's like they know that a particular person is going to throw a curveball all the time. They're not surprised. They're ready because they see that player coming up and they're like ready to catch that ball. Like they know how to do it. So it's like for us, this is an opportunity for us to prepare our inner terrain for these occurrences. And we can do that because, Uranus has been in Taurus for quite a while. Mercury's bringing that information in Scorpio, which is deep, and we're ready.
Yeah, Scorpio. I love Scorpio because we can really dive into the things we need to like look at, and see and discover for ourselves. The flavor that this transit also brings is one of almost like sporadic thoughts or things that might come up and like a light bulb over our heads and in our communication. So we might feel like, oh my God, we have to communicate, we have to go out there and talk, or we might actually have really brilliant ideas because Uranus is like, hello, I'm here, as a little light bulb. There could be a big major breakthrough of communication in our one-to-one. So if there's any challenges that we've been facing with others, this could be like that one aspect that really breaks it through for us. And not only with one-on-one, but with ourselves, with even like neighbors, people around us. Our point of view is as important. We have to remember this as person B. So we might be person A, their perspective is important, but so is ours. So we have to remember that. Remember the opposition is looking at the seesaw and being like, I notice my standpoint, but I also realize and can understand as best as I can point B, which is the opposing energy here, which is Uranus. Mercury is like wants to go fast, so does Uranus. So, but it's important for them to take ground and be like, hold on, let's take a look at what's happening here before we can move forward. I have here also lend an ear. So really listen in, have discernment though. We might listen in, we might give our ear in too much. So be mindful of that too. Listen and remain flexible. So what you hear doesn't need to be all taken in. It could be the things that really resonate and can bring a breakthrough. So I think this aspect can really bring in, again, Scorpion, that scorpionic energy of like pulling out things that we really need to assess and for clarity, for balance. And because Scorpio is really that. It wants us also to for us to be in our power, personal power. I think that brings a lot of clarity during this time for us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that you spoke about the oppositions and how to work with that, because what we believe and what we know and what we understand is so important, but so is that person who's in front of us. Theirs is so important too. So it's really about, having a respect for that while also having a respect for yourself. And you said that so clearly. So that was great. Yeah. So Mercury in Scorpio trines Neptune in Pisces, and that's November 6th to the 7th, which is Monday and Tuesday. And what I received was that Mercury is going to bring you information from the depths of the sea. The information can seem confusing, but a part of you already knows it. It can be murky. The waters, the deep waters are murky, but you get a glimpse of some truth at this time. There's, the image that I get is that there's a sliver of knowledge that's behind the boulder under the water, and that's where it lives. That's where it's been. And that's a natural habitat for that particular sea creature. So, accept it and move on with it. Get the information, try not to hold on to it too deeply, not to grasp it too deeply. So, you know what, I kind of knew this. I kind of knew this already. So you'll be better off for it. Then swim upward, toward the clear water. Ask for clarity, ask for guidance, and you will receive it, as you work with spirit, as you work with, with a therapist, as you work with a coach, there are always people who are going to give you the wisdoms that So again, scorpionic, I don't know, people are afraid of scorpionic energy. I'm hearing that. And there's no need to be, it sits there, it dwells in something till it understands it. It feels it deeply. And then, eventually, water is such that it'll move on, right? Water is such that it'll always go into the larger ocean, the larger mass of water. So, if you need help with moving on, it's always out there for you. You just have to grasp out for it.
I love the image of the boulder and like that silver lining, because I imagine like a gap in there, like a gap where we can kind of go into, explore for ourselves. And that gap is like so important for us to kind of get into, so we can dive deeper into our thoughts, really release and get to know a part of ourselves, our emotions being the waters of understanding. So that was so interesting to you. Thank you for like sharing that image, because it really put this transit into perspective. This next transit brings a soulful flavor to this week, as it's a bit dreamy. So it's really being in the ocean, dreamy. We may feel a sense of comfort with what's in our private life. So I think that silver lining could be that private life for us, where we kind of dig a little bit deeper under that boulder to find parts of ourselves. And I have here, for example, spending some time at home, also tuning into music. Again, these are real water elements here, or to our favorite creative pursuits that will do us very well. So maybe that under that boulder is all these magical things for us to ground and do. If we're at work during this time, listen to good playlists during your lunch break, or maybe, go out and take a walk, take fresh air. Try not to get involved in too much hassle during this time. And this is a very uplifting energy for us, as it uplifts our energy, our mood, and our spirit. Maybe we're lifting up that boulder and realizing, okay, we can imagine the boulder less heavy and dense, right? Because the waters will support it for us. I think that this is a sweetness to our transits this week, for sure.
Very nice. And the last one that we're going to discuss today is Venus in Virgo opposes Neptune in Pisces. So what I saw was Venus was the worker bee. She's always like, go, 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 getting that beauty thing done. And And that may be at odds with Neptune and Pisces, who wants to like revel and just be in, like watching a romantic fantasy, like that sort of thing, playing that music, going into a deep meditation, into a reverie. And what I'm saying is like allow yourself to have a sweet weekend here. Like you don't have to like pillage ahead, like move forward, like just kind of you can get things done, but in a different romantic sort of way is what I'm thinking. That when we work on things, there is that natural need for a maturing of a project, for a ripening of a project, so that sometimes if we just like barrel through it, we'll forget it. I'm thinking like I went skiing once when I was working on my doctoral dissertation, and I felt like I needed to just like study all the time. I needed to read all the time. I was always writing. And so my topic that I had been studying was persons with AIDS who living with AIDS who practice Santeria. That was my topic. And my partner was like, let's go skiing, let's do something, let's get out of the house. So we went skiing that weekend. And on the way back in the bus, they had the movie The Black Orpheus. And it was about the magic, it was about the Orisha tradition. And it was like, who would have figured that I would have been on the bus going skiing and this is the gift that they would show me? It talked about love, it talked about belief, the real idea of believing, of trusting, that only that energy and that understanding can give you. So it added, like my juices were simmered, I could still have fun, I could still do something else. And it was kind of like spirit gave me a gift. It's like, okay, you decided to have fun this weekend and we're giving you something else. Here's a depth, here's an understanding of the mediumship, of channeling, of understanding something deeper in the universes, and not just the book knowledge that you thought you were going to get that weekend. So anyway, yeah, so let your juices or your projects simmer in that Neptunian dream world that only a sign such as Pisces can provide. Like this is where it's going to happen, and you will glean so much more than you thought possible.
Beautiful. I love that. If we pay attention to the universe, we always see that sign. And that's for this week in this transit. An added ingredient with this planetary action is to avoid like quick decisions that because these decisions will not withstand a lot of the actions I will put into. Instead, let's go off of logic and let's go more into our emotional nature, which is what T is speaking, kind of flowing with things. We may experience with this transit moments when we are connecting positively to other people or the woman in our areas of work or home. So again, it goes back to what T mentioned about like work or projects. So we might be working in this real good space and energy with other people around us that we can bring in to our space, and this aspect is really, really dreamy for all of us. We might feel like we're laying over the water, floating there. Enjoy this gracious moment with those that are around us, right? Whoever it is. And whether also if it's a new person or maybe it's something that we are enjoying at that moment, for us to be present with it. Because I feel like Virgo and Pisces really want us to do that during this week.
I just had the message to remind everyone to rest. Take some time for yourself. We've just had this eclipse. The energy is still reverberating, and it will be for a while. So be gentle with yourself. If you find yourself tired, if you feel yourself exhausted, whatever it is, just take care of yourself. It's okay to say, I'm not going to do a particular thing. It's okay. I don't know why I always get that message, is to remind people. Maybe it's because I need the reminding for myself, since I'm such a go person. So yeah, so that's my hit, and that's what I'm sharing with you. Is there anything you want to add before we say so long?
Yeah, I want to kind of extend a little bit the resting. I feel like in these 2 weeks from October 14th to the 28th, we experience all these eclipses. And I want to just give a reminder to everyone to whatever you learned during that time to kind of sit with it. And I think that's part of the rest that we all need to take. Enjoy it, see what came up, whether positive, challenging. These are things that are things in our lives to do and grow from. So I just hope everyone a happy healing and happy rest or sleep during this time.
Great. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We love you and keep sending us questions and reach out with any interest you might have regarding astrology. And so thank you for listening. Share, like, subscribe, and con mucho, mucho sabor. Here we are. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Sabor Astrology with T and Shay. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.